Hey everyone, Games Workshop are releasing a load of stuff for the Lumineth Realm Lords this weekend, so we thought it'd be cool to give you the chance to win the Lumineth Realm Lords launch set. If you want to win this big box of goodies, like the video, comment below, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And you know the drill. Come on over to OnTableTop.com and comment there too for an extra chance to win. The weekend starts now. Hey everyone, it's the weekend. Thanks for joining us. I'm Lloyd and I'm joined by Jerry over there and Ben down below.
Hello.
Or as we like to call them, Ben and Jerry. No, Ben and Jerry. I'll get that right. That's probably wrong because I think I'm looking at this in a flipped view. So when this goes through the edit, that'll still be wrong. So Ben, Ben and Jerry.
It can never be right. Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome back, peeps. It's been another week in gaming. We're going to get stuck into another hour and a half's worth of Weekender here. Coming up first, though, fellas, I want to talk about Conquest stuff because I believe we're doing stuff with Conquest. It's starting this weekend, aren't we?
Yeah. So I believe a few of us are going to be diving in. We haven't fully revealed exactly who's going to be doing it just yet, but Warren sort of laid some tasters out last week and things. But this weekend anyway, should be the first of our videos looking at a little bit of an overview of the 4 armies that are available right now as part of Conquest, the Last Argument of Kings. So yeah, it should be very cool indeed.
Yeah, and that's going out on Sunday, I believe. That's the current plan anyway, that it'll be going out on Sunday. I think that ties in well with their latest releases, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I believe there's actually going to be some Dwencombe stuff coming out this weekend, which will be pretty cool. But as well as that, they've also put together sort of like a Path of Conquest bundle that you can pick up right now. So it's a little way for them to sort of like introduce people into the game, and we have it available over on the OnTableTop store as well.
Well, let's see. You put up an article about this, didn't you? This is what you're talking about.
Yeah, so that's the original core set that obviously gives you the 2 factions, which are the 100 Kingdoms and the Spires. So you've got your sort of standard, sort of classic fantasy humans, and then also your clone warriors on the side of the Spires there. But as well as that, as part of the bundle bonus that they put together, that's going to be running for quite a while, is the availability to pick up the core set. Plus, you also get a set of the Steel Legion and the Marksman clones for free, bundled alongside your core set. So you've got 2 expansion units straight away to help you build up the forces. And that's what it looks like once it's all done. So, yeah.
Sweet. Is this going to be running like for long, or is this like a short sort of get started with Path of Conquest stuff?
I believe it's for the next couple of months. So you've still got plenty of time to get involved and pick up this bundle, which is pretty awesome.
I know that they've other things planned coming up to Christmas, so I don't think they overlap. So I think what we'll get is a few months of this, starting with the Path to Conquest, and then there'll be Christmas bundles for each of the individual armies.
Cool.
Probably around October, November time.
I see we're stocking it as well. Here we go. Begin your Path to Conquest bundle over on store.ontabletop. Hey, buy merch.
Yeah, that was coming.
Buy merch, yeah. So if you're going to be getting involved, we have that, and we have like the Conquest section on the store where you can go and expand your armies if you really start to get into it. So yeah, you can follow along at home. Actually, the bundle's a really good idea to get stuck in with.
Yeah,
follow you guys.
It's fantastic value, and the way the Path to Conquest will be mapping out over the coming months will be all 4 of the factions with tailored armies for the guys taking part in it here, and people can either follow along with those armies or make up their own. They can use the Conquest army builder to map out what they want to add in, and there's no sort of hard and fast points for each milestone along the Path to Conquest. Instead, it's a sort of a rough guide to help people build towards a full 2,000 point army. So you can mix and match, you can change things up. Some of the models can be built in a variety of ways as well. So while Warren, for example, may be taking halberdiers, you could choose to build the men-at-arms as crossbows or bows instead. So your variations in there. There'll be a variety of videos and articles as well coming from ourselves and the guys at Parabellum.
Yeah, if I bring up the website again, so these will be dropping into our Conquest section over on the website. So if you want to know more about Conquest, here's a great place to come. Just come on over to the website, and along the top here, you'll see all these wee logos. Just scroll along and you'll find Conquest. Bam, there's Conquest, and that'll take you into the hub that we have here. And it's doing well on the whole game rating thing as well, 8.9 at the minute. Yeah. And then you can see all the content that we're doing related to this game. Yeah. And then if you want to go through to their site, you can just click here and it'll take you through Parabellum. And then you can get more up to date on what's actually going on. But the videos that we're going to have, well, the videos that we're going to be putting up should bring people up to speed pretty quickly. And if you know nothing about the game, I'm assuming that this armies overview that we're going to be doing on Sunday will probably be a good point to jump into.
Yeah, it's a great place to step off from, because it kind of gives an idea of what the armies are about and the style of play you get with them. In the past, if you go to that Conquest Hub, you'll find some of the original videos that Justin did a long time ago with the guys from Parabellum about the backstory of the world as well. So if you can't wait until Sunday, if you want to know what Conquest is about, you can already go and have a look at that. And that should set you up nicely for the video coming out on Sunday then.
Yeah. Sweet stuff. Right, fellas. Before we get stuck into news, we've got an indie of the week to be having a look at. It's very quickly becoming like a favorite section of viewers. They're loving the indies. I love the indies too, because it really does throw curveballs at you. You're like, oh, I've never seen this before. So, who's chosen?
It's perfect because it means that everybody becomes a little bit of a Jerry, where they just end up buying lots of miniatures from lots of different companies.
That's it.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
But this time, it was Jerry's pick.
My pick. I have picked, and I've gone all steampunky. I've come over all steampunk with Demented Games Twisted. So some of our indies tend to be sort of broad spectrum, where it's generic fantasy or generic sci-fi or historical. This is a specific little game from an Antipodean company. So Twisted is all about Dickensian steampunk. And to give you a bit of a background of what's going on, it's not our world. It's a similar world to ours that's just deviated slightly. And there's a thing called the engine. And during Dickensian times, they found a node to the engine, which could be an AI, could be a thing from beyond, who knows, but they woke it up, and it turned out it didn't like to be woke up. So there are nodes all over the world, and some people are trying to exploit them, and some people are trying to protect it, and in some cases the engine will protect itself by reaching out and changing people. So you've got this steampunk skirmish game, and it's a thing of really interesting joy in my life right now. I've been reading through the rulebook, and if you're aware of Oliver Twist, there are storylines, pages told by the Dickensian faction is essentially Fagin, Bill Sykes, Oliver, and the rest of that gang, after having found a book in the library that then led people to other books and other books and other books, and eventually people discovered this engine node existed in London, and they went to turn it on, and it went badly wrong, and Bill Sykes got changed into some sort of half-man, half-goat steam lunatic.
Let's see. I'm still in the world. We had a quick overview there. Faction.
If you throw up the Dickensians there, and these are I'm not going to say the main faction, but they're very much a faction for themselves. Whereas some of the other ones may be trying to protect or bring balance. But there are two things I really like about it. One is how you get this constant story building throughout the rulebook. And it's all told from that faction's point of view. So you get like Fagin and his pickpockets. You've got Nancy, who becomes the alchemancer. So the people who can use sort of magic in this world are alchemancers. And she's gone from being the sort of mother figure for the kids to just being all-out nutbag after power. Bill Sykes was always a lunatic, and he's not got any better. And little tiny, please sir, can I have some more? Oliver has become some sort of monstrous fiend.
Yeah, well, here he is. Yeah, he's a monster.
Oh, yeah.
He's got
Oh,
like
yeah.
proper sort of like hide, hasn't he?
They keep him chained to a wall because at no point does he ever turn back into Dr. Jekyll. He's just permanent hide all of the time.
Wow.
So yeah, the world itself is beautifully writ. The initial rules explains all about the Dickensians and one of the other factions, the servants of the engine. So the Dickensians they're after it for themselves, whereas the servants they've essentially been resurrected or changed by the engine to protect itself, and then some other factions come in and add to it. But your initial game gives you these factions, and you've got a sort of a named characters, the likes of your Nancy or your Bill or Fagin or Oliver, whoever it happens to be. And then you've also got sort of the Dungers in your faction, which in the Dickensians are played by the Urkins. So obviously you've got street.
Let's see.
So you've got so street urchins, but in the same way that like they would have referred to cancer as a canker. It's a very hard K, and the Urkins are gorgeous. They're little kids. They're essentially Fagin's pickpocket gang.
There you go. You can see some of them there.
And they live in constant fear of what Fagin, Bill, Nancy, or Oliver will do to them.
Well, let's get some of these up.
You can play multiple ones of these. So you could find, so you could have, well, that's an alchemancер, so he's a little voodoo child with his tiny voodoo puppet. It's just gorgeous. So you could have multiples of some of the Urkins kicking around. There's one with a squirrel, which is very dear to my heart for no reason. The dragoon there with his two little boys, wooden horse, the little wheel on it, running about. Some of them have special abilities that you would expect. So the dragoon's a bit of a melee cavalry fighter. The sharpshooters aren't sharpshooters, and you can flex in as much of these guys as you want in a faction. Squirrel.
The squirrel one.
There's the squirrel.
Squirrel.
Yeah.
A tiny mechanical squirrel as well. And the really nice thing about what the guys Sebastian and Peter have done at Demented is they've taken either Dickensian real life figures or fictional figures, and then give them that twist, pardon the pun, to bring them into the world, or they've gone for fictional characters from, say, popular culture, and then have drawn them back into this alternative reality. So, I mean, you could get lost in looking at these guys, but if we have a look at one of the other factions.
Well, the reason I was enjoying these guys is because I could relate to the characters a little bit, even if I've never been exposed to the game. I know about the whole Dickens sort of.
Yeah. Well, here's a good one then. If you go back to your start, essentially, and we'll have a look at the Guild of Harmony, who are one of the newer factions. And the guild, there's like sub-factions within the guild. There's 3 different factions, but they're trying to bring balance. They don't want the engine to take over, and they don't want people to take over the engine. And again, this is literary characters. So you've got Alice and the White Rabbit. You've got Mary Parpins, as Dick Van Dyke would say. You've also got somebody who looks suspiciously like a Ghostbuster in the middle there. So Dr. Aykroyd, who's holding a ghost trap. # not a ghost trap. Let
me see if I can get the minis up for these.
Yeah. It's an interesting faction in of itself, and this is the faction I'd initially seen with your Dorothy, Toto.
The Agents of Oz. The
Agents of Oz sub-faction blew me away because, yes, it's the Tin Man, the Lion, the Scarecrow, and yet at the same time, it's so much not.
Yeah.
They're instantly recognizable, but they're very, very distinct. We're not in London anymore. It's never a truer word spoken. And they're just stunning.
They are beautifully sculpted. That's one of the things that I think, anybody who's seeing this immediately will recognize. Just the miniatures are amazing.
Yeah. And I mean, the nice thing is if you're into the game, you can pick them up. They do them in metal, but they also do, I think, they call them collector's versions, which are resin casts if you just want to get a better quality sculpt well, not better quality, same quality skull, better quality cast. Where
There
you've
we
got the
go.
really defined edges.
There's Poppins and there's Dick.
Dick, Chimney, Mary Poppins. There's not Lara Croft. I can't remember her name.
Maria Poppet. Maria Poppet.
Yeah. So you say.
Oh, the carpet
Alice
bag.
is cool.
Everything's good because the carpet bag's there. She'll sort of anything. Spit spot, no problems.
There's Alice and her caterpillar. No hookah.
Oh, the hair.
But yeah, they do these beautifully detailed miniatures in resin if you want to get them, and just go nuts on the paint job. And I mean, for painters out there, there is a wealth of detail on these. Not Lara Croft there.
I'm getting the name now. Twisted. Everything is being taken on. Twisted, literally.
Yeah. Oh, very much so. Very much so. And it builds up beautifully. You know, you can go as nuts as you want. Game wise, the game itself is quite interesting because you've got decks of cards, which is the eye of the engine, which throw little wrinkles into your gameplay. Because occasionally something might go horribly wrong for you because the engine's taking a look, and you might be a servant of the engine, but in the vast, ineffable plan that the engine has for itself, it may really need to screw you and your friends over at that point in time. So like every turn, the eye of the engine passes back and forth between players. And
well, hold on. Servants of the engine. I mean, since you're talking about the engine, let's get Servants of the engine.
Servants of the engine is Howard Carter, everybody's favorite Tomb Raider, and
the OG Tomb Raider.
Yeah, and other. I mean, Agatha Christie's there along with her gentlefolk, Hercules. So Hercule Poirot is there to record everything. But again, there's little twists in it. The gentlefolk are essentially engine created golems, so you can get like a school teacher who looks like a nanny from 101 Dalmatians, or you've got
so cool.
the highwayman there. They're just all absolutely stunning. And if people are interested in this game, everything is available to download.
Cool.
The full 150-page rulebook, it's there. The card decks you need to play, you can print them out and play. If you've got steampunky stuff at home already, Lancelot, unfortunate, great knight, doesn't know what's going on. Occasionally the engine just takes him over and he just goes killing.
Where do we get the rule book then?
So go up to the top, go to the game. Sorry, the tab there, home of the game.
Yeah.
And then
rules downloads. Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
They also have videos and everything on their site as well, which is good.
Fantastic.
Do I have to sign up for anything, or can I just
No, you can go and download it. That's the core rules. That gives you the Dickensians and the servants. And then there's two 30-page mini rule books for the two new factions, the Guild of Harmony and the Sign of the Sands, along with everything else you need. Now, they do physical copies. They do. Which means if you take a look at it and go, this is something that I could get on board with, you can then go out and grab the physical copies. But it's a very tight, neatly done skirmish game. So you're playing with small amount of characters, and they even have built into the rules. It's a 2v2 game, but if you want to play 3v, three people or 4 people, or 2v1 and things like this, there are rule mechanics changes written in going, okay, this is how you do it if it's 2 players, but if you've got 3, you do it like this. If it's 4, then this happens. You divide up the game this way because draws.
So the base version of the game is 2v2.
Sorry, 1v1.
Oh, right, okay, right. Sorry.
So
I was like, that's
no.
Yeah,
that's just me tripping over myself. But the fact that they've built those things in at the start, because the amount of times where you're playing a game and 3 people show up to a club and you're going, well, I want to play Saga. It's,
for example,
one person is going to either watch, or you've got 2 people trying to play on the same side, and it's not built in, it's not intuitive as to how you adapt the game. Whereas this, they've gone, okay, the important thing, like the eye of the engine being focused on somebody is an important aspect. Whoever has the favor of the engine automatically wins draws. There are no draws in this game in melee or shooting or anything. Whoever holds that token wins, which means it's important as to who's got it. And if you're playing a 3-player game, then if there are two people are fighting from different factions, and the third player who isn't involved actually has the favour of the engine. They get to choose who wins in the case of a draw. So you can just go, you know
That's
what?
cool.
You don't. He does.
I gotta
Because
say,
that'll hamper you more, and it's very tactical.
I'm digging the rulebook here.
Oh, the rulebook's gorgeous.
They've really gone to the town on the whole illustrations and stuff.
It's not even illustrations. It's where you see things like, if you scroll up slightly, the text headings for certain sections. So Madame Moon's Grimoire of Golds, that's how you set up the game. You go to Madame Moon's Grimoire of Golds, look at her matrix, and that explains how you play the scenarios out. When you're working out your points values there, the Dr. Disraeli's Delights. So Disraeli's Delights are essentially upgrades. If you're playing a 200-point game and your opponent is, your opponent's tapped out at a higher level than you because they can only get in at 203, then you've got 5 points to play with. There's tables for everything, which is great if you're a random person like me, because yes, you can build the best thing you can. But if you go round and go, I've got a shiny penny, sir. What have you got available? And then roll up, and then he goes, I've got a Gorget of Grace. That's what armor. Going, well, that's not really helpful for me, but thank you, sir. Bye. Or you can point up and pick the little things that you need to pick to make your gang as technically brilliant as possible, which is not what I like.
Sweet. I think we've won.
The Scions of the Sand.
Yeah.
Which is the kind of Egyptian themed stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and again, this is people who went tomb robbing and friends, but also then things the engine has resurrected or plucked from the past and brought forward to help protect it. So there, you've got Carter there with his Canopic jar and tombstone, rocking about the place and certainly not thieving everything in sight. Not like Elgin with marbles. Agatha Christie and Hercule,
I think he's rocking around.
Company.
He's probably got the Fifth Element jammed in there.
I imagine so.
So Agatha and Hercule are going to be solving crimes by shooting people in this. Yeah.
Well, she shoots it. He writes it down. It's the best way to do it. And the idea behind it is these nodes appear around the world. People don't know where they're going to come from, where they're going to crop up. So expansion-wise, they've got a very London-centric feel at the beginning, but then the Scions of the Sands pushes that into Egypt as well, which obviously was...
So they've got a lot of scope for doing something different.
Yeah, you could see Indigo Ford there with her whip and pistol. I wonder who she could be based on. They could potentially, you could get a Chinese faction cropping up at some point, and obviously, bringing these various genres together, it's all tied together by that Victorian-esque steampunk feel, or Dickensian, I suppose, steampunk feel, with a tweak, because they can go, well, we've got our terracotta warriors here as our Chinese faction, dungers who are just going to be thrown in to help whoever happens to be the main people in that faction. And there's no reason, if you're resurrecting Shabti from ancient Egypt, then there's no reason why you can't have some Gollum-esque steampunked terracotta warriors kicking around, or Native Americans, or Russians, or whatever it happens to be.
So got some big collector stuff as well.
The 75mm big painting pieces. Lancelot there, not currently mind controlled. He's got the list, the little ticker tape machine on his waist, just prints out his targets, and then occasionally he gets mind beamed by the machine and will just go off on one. It's whether or not he can sort of rein himself in before he starts butchering everybody. I like how the long rifle is actually a lance with the couch at the end.
That is cool.
Yeah. It's little delicate touches like that. And I mean, there he is beside the game piece, and he just looks just as stunning in
54mm. It says here.
Yeah.
The thing as well, when thinking about that, is that if they've included someone like Lancelot, then there's no reason they can't go back and do other kind of Arthurian-y stuff, and explore that kind of the sort of elements of European history. Look at kind of the Slavic things as well going on in sort of like the medieval period as well. That could be pretty cool.
It's a whole world that they've built up. I know they had a successful Kickstarter, and this seems to be going well, but they'd been hampered in the past that you couldn't really get it outside of Australia, New Zealand. But they've recently got a couple of UK suppliers, which means now if you're in Europe, you don't have to go, well, I'd like to get them, but I'm going to end up paying twice or three times the price once it gets shipped and taxed. Yeah. So the WOMP store is one, and I think G2G Games is the other. So the fact that you can now lay your hands on it easily in Europe means hopefully we'll see more people getting into this, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring
they do like terrain range for it and everything as well now, don't they?
Yeah, they've got no, I haven't seen anybody carrying that yet. Up here it's just the miniatures in the game, but they've got a quite nice MDF, HDF kits with, again, that sort of elaborate swirls, tweaks on it. And there are plenty of other companies out there doing similar sort of,
I take it that must be relatively new
adjacent.
Because I can't even find that on their website. Is there a link to that on their website, or is that being sold to
there might be somewhere, but yeah. I just remember seeing some of it as I was flicking through their website. And I know it's something that they brought up as part of the Kickstarter and that kind of thing. I think they were doing a sort of collaboration with another company in order to make that happen.
I see they've got some painting guides. That's cool.
Yeah.
Let me quickly bring them up.
Yeah, I mean, the painting guides, like I say, there's gameplay videos there as well, along with all the rules. So if people have stuff that's kicking around that would work for it, or they could even proxy some stuff and play a few games to see how it goes, it's all equally viable.
Sweet.
I like the thing as well with this range in particular that's sort of put forth through the artwork and the studio paint jobs as well, is that it's a steampunk game, but it's a colourful steampunk game.
Yeah.
Because there are so many steampunk games out there where it's all very much about like the gears and the metal and the oil and that kind of thing. And obviously you could paint your miniatures in that way. There's no reason why you couldn't.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that they've gone to that extra level of, no, we want to have big, bright, poppy colours in there and everything as well, which I think also feeds into the idea of it being twisted and stuff. So
if you're gonna have an elaborate mix of steampunk magic and Dickensian period, then lean into it and really make it as vibrant and colourful as you can.
Yeah.
Let's check out some of their videos.
What delightfully orange top he
has. Let's see. All right, so this gives an idea of the sort of terrain density and size of the game board and stuff. So 4x4.
3x3, I think.
Was that a 3x3?
Is the standard, yeah. And I mean, your gangs, for want of a better word, aren't particularly huge either. 5-6 models is viable.
Sweet, really cool.
I do like the mechanics. I'm just getting into, but I do like how they've set things up. So templates, for example, if a template touches your base, you're hit, which is fairly standard.
Yeah.
If you're only partially covered, though, you can make essentially a dodge save. Because you're at the edge of the blast.
Right.
If you're completely covered, unlucky, you're just getting hit by it. There's no dodging. Doesn't matter how far you jump, you're still hit.
I like that the game features like proper poly dice as well. So it's not just D6s or something. It's got D20s and all sorts in there as well. That's always welcome to see.
Full range of polys are there, which, I mean, it's one step away from an RPG as things stand. So why not? And they could potentially do a little RPG as well. Use the OSR and just go steampunky.
It's one of the things I was looking at when I was seeing all the artwork and you were describing the world and things. I was thinking how awesome that would be, like going down that route of doing sort of role-playing stuff with it as well. Because I'd imagine there's so many different characters in there that you could kind of make your own as well, which is kind of cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. You don't have to be Roger Rabbit or Randolph Carter or whoever it happens to be. You can quite happily just be a random Irkin. I mean,
so it seems to play quite differently depending on the terrain stuff. The first board we looked at, actually, that's that ship that Warren converted. Yeah. If you haven't been watching the XLBS show, you're missing out on Warren taking that actual ship there and converting it into a 15 mil
tramp steamer or cargo ship.
Like a freighter ship.
With all the, what do you call them again? What do you call those things off? Containers.
Cargo containers,
stuff like that. It's cool. But anyway, yeah, I clicked on this because the first one we looked at there had lots of buildings and stuff. So I wanted to see, did it have to be that dense? Is it like an Infinity where it had to be loads of buildings? But this one's a lot more open looking.
Yeah.
Still a lot of terrain I can see sitting around. So obviously there's a lot of interaction with taking cover and things like that by the looks of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of it is when you're playing, you sort out the order in which you're going to activate. So at the start of a turn, you take a card for each of your characters and you go, right, okay, well, this person's going to activate first and then this person's going to activate. So you have to plan out in advance what you want to happen in a turn. So you'd play your first card and then your opponent might play a character that you weren't expecting. And unfortunately, that could leave you up that creek without a tramp steamer. So yeah, there's a lot of tactics in it as well. So terrain density helps because you may not know when that character is going to go.
Cool. Sweet. Well, thank you very much for that, Jay.
Very awesome.
That's another one. Because I'd seen Twisted pop up a few times, but I never really looked that deeply into it. But having looked through the terrain there or through the range, I'm like, ooh, this is well worth checking out.
Oh, I definitely think so. Like I say, and if it's one that people have looked at in the past and then went, no, I'm not about to pay triple the price in taxes and shipping. Now that you can get it in the north here, it's probably worth having another look at.
Cool. Right, fellas. I think we'll move on to the news and see what's been happening this week.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
Yeah, so diving into some news from this week. We start off with a lot of stuff from Age of Sigmar and the Mortal Realms and Games Workshop. So the Lumineth Realm Lords, also known as the Cow Elves by Lloyd, are going to be released as a full army now. Up until this point, we've only seen them as available in that kind of sort of limited edition set, which you can
actually. Is that the one we're giving away?
It is, in fact, the one you can win this weekend. Yes.
Yeah. Let me bring that up before you get stuck in.
Yeah.
So this jobby here, then, this has been the only way to get them.
Yes, this was the only way to get them up until this weekend when pre-orders go live. Although, obviously, if you get involved this weekend, you could get that set with all the fancy rulebook and all the other gubbins and stuff that they've got in there, which will give you a head start on the army. And also, you get the cavalry. Yes, you get the cavalry in there with this, which you don't actually get this weekend as part of the pre-orders. So you'll be ahead of the game on that front too.
Yeah, get your comments in, get your likes, sub the channel, peeps. Let's see what's coming then. So what is coming?
So, on the way for the Lumineth Realm Lords, we have Teclis and Kelenar, or Selenar, however you want to say it. Everyone has their own opinions on exactly what Teclis looks like here. I think he looks like he's been, unfortunately, sort of puppetized, I suppose you'd say. But otherwise, I think actually Selenar is actually a pretty awesome model. The kind of reasoning behind the miniature is that Selenar is so powerful and a being of her own right that she would never let someone, even like Teclis, ride her. So that's the kind of
Griffin-y looking thing.
Yes, the kind of sphinxy, Griffin-y thing going on in the background. Yeah.
How bad are you when your mount won't let you get on its back? I bought a mount for my wizard, and she said no.
Well, I mean, Teclis isn't exactly the nicest person, regardless of who he might fight for. So, yeah. If anyone's read those old Giant Slayer, Gotrek and Felix books, you'll know exactly how bad Teclis is. So.
It doesn't make any sense. If you don't want someone riding you, don't grow handlebars on your head.
Quite right. In fact, yes.
Ridiculous. Get them removed. That'll make it harder for people to ride you then.
Exactly. True.
Nothing to hang on to.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Suddenly all those fawns and centaurs, not fawns and centaurs, but fawns and stuff out there are like, oi, excuse me. But yeah. As well as Teclis and Kelenar, Selenar, however you say the name, there's also the Light of Eltharion, who I think is probably one of their best miniatures in this collection. I really like the use of negative space in there and creating that kind of ghostly armor. I'm sure that Eltharion has some words for Teclis as to why he only brought him back as just pure light. But otherwise, a very cool miniature and a callback to Warhammer Fantasy and the Old World, which is very awesome.
Poor Eltharion. It keeps getting worse and worse for him. He went from his deathbed to the hero of Tor these to the warden, then being blinded. becoming the blind sword master, and now he doesn't even have a corporeal form.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've been trying to figure out how they've done this leg, but I have figured it out. So there's no actual connection point here by the looks of it.
But it's built into the base. Yeah.
So this connects to here, and that connects to there.
Yeah.
Right. So it's all supported.
It's a very,
I like these models, but man, it freaks me out. Like just these little support bits. Because when you hand a model to someone at the gaming club, you're like, "Here, check this out," and they just grab at it, and you're like, "No,
hold it by the base, hold it by the base,
hold the base, for God's sakes, the base."
Too busy bashing it off the table to see what it's made of.
Is it metal? Boom. No, no, it's not.
So yeah, as well as Teclis and Selenar and the Light of Eltharion, you've also got the Cenari Cathalar, which is one of their mages for the Lumineth Realm Lords. And as we discussed way back in the eons of time, that was early 2020, they actually are mages that draw on the sorrow of their race and then use it to harm their enemies. So if you ever wanted to be the most emo of elves, then you can do that right now with these
emo mages. Or if you've got green eyes and Lopan is thinking about resurrecting himself, then that's probably excellent as well. Because isn't that the bridal outfit from Big Trouble in Little China?
Totally make a bridal outfit.
It does look like it, yeah.
You need two of them on sticks.
I think the goblet is a bit OTT on her. I quite
it
like
is a little bit, yeah.
You think the goblet's OTT? I was thinking the side things would be really annoying. It'd be the most annoying housemate ever because they're like totally like dogs. You know, dogs with sticks trying to get through the doors. Have to turn sideways all the time.
Yeah. But as well as those characters, I actually think that the whole sort of idea of them is kind of awesome, even if the execution isn't always the same. But talking of actually awesome models, the Venari Sentinels and the Wardens, which are the sort of classic spearmen and archers, are also out this weekend as individual box sets too.
Oh, I like these.
Yeah. So these are...
Let me check these. So how do these compare to what's in here?
They're exactly the same. Yeah,
just as a separate box set now, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. So the cool thing about these is that they've obviously tried to do something different and new for the Mortal Realms in terms of their aesthetic, but they've also tried to tie in a lot of stuff from the previous version of the High Elves in Warhammer Fantasy. So if anyone collected High Elves and knows like the Lotharin Sea Guard and that kind of thing, these guys have sort of built it in their image alongside the sort of like your classic sort of state spearmen from a High Elf army as well, which is very cool.
See, I'm kind of drawn to this army. Out of the Age of Sigmar stuff, I like kind of gravitate towards this one, but there's bits of it I don't like. I don't like so much of the horns and things, but mostly the color scheme. I love the look of the color scheme, but I don't think I'd be able to pull that off. I'd probably
all that cream.
I'd probably end up going like blues and reds or something. I don't know if I could be able to do that because, as you would know, Ben, like when you've been painting and showing us stuff in the XLBS show on Sundays, when it comes to the light colors and things, you know, sticking a contrast down, well, I guess you could rock on and see how you get on, but it's a hard act to follow.
It really is, yeah. But yeah, so the Spearmen and the Archers are both available for you to pick up this weekend as part of their pre-orders and all that kind of thing. Good stuff.
Are these new, or were they in the box set?
They're also in the box set as well. The only thing that in the box set that isn't available on the other side, there should be some... No, they're
not. So those would be... They'd be like, if you have this box set, this is a way of getting really starting to expand.
You can actually add archers in, which are a key feature of any elven army.
Yeah, exactly. Who's ever heard of elves with no archers, for goodness sakes?
Yeah. And they're even better archers because they've got 3 strings to their bow. So, yeah. For extra torque, I guess. That's a thing. 3
strings that become 1 string.
Yeah. But I'm sure there's some reasoning why it is like that, and I'm sure it'll tell us in the fluff and stuff. And talking about fluff, some of the new things that you can also get alongside the miniatures is also the new battle tome for the Lumineth Realm Lords, which will come with all of the rules, obviously, for the miniatures you've just seen there, plus all the miniatures that are coming down the line. So the massive, huge, like, wardens and that kind of thing that they've been working on. Not wardens, sorry. The giant cow people with the hammers. I cannot remember their name. I'm just going to call them cow people. Yeah, that's really bad. I did not do my research. I am a professional, I assure you. But on top of that, you've also got their sort of endless spells that you'll be able to cast and put onto the battlefield, themed to their faction, of course. Every new faction gets these now, and also some of the existing ones. And then to top things off, if you want to try and be, sort of, I want everything to be Lumineth, you can buy these barrel-shaped dice. So if you don't fancy rolling cubes, you can roll barrels instead, which is kind of cool. So, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I guess.
I think that's the first set of dice that Games Workshop have done for a faction that are different in shape, if you know what I mean. Yeah,
like, what size are these things?
I guess they're around the size of normal dice, I suppose. But yeah.
Just
Are they
stretched.
Are they like a D6 stacked on top of each other, sort of thing?
They might be. I can't quite tell. I'd assume you'll still be able to roll a handful of them. I think they'll actually look quite nice on the tabletop, which I think is kind of cool. And obviously, it keeps things within the theme of what you're doing. So if you are like a real Lumineth fan right now, then I think this would be a pretty good shout for you. So, but obviously, like all the other kind of things in this vein from Games Workshop, that's going to be limited edition. So just watch out, and if you definitely do want them, make sure to get in early on the Saturday to get your hands on those. So yeah,
be lucky,
or be fast, or be both. Yeah.
So remember to get your comments in for your chance to win this.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't checked to see if you're a winner last week, go on over to our prize claim center over on OnTableTop.com. Click the links and stuff that you can see on the screen here.
Yep.
And check to see, did you win our Flames of War prize from last week? Right, Ben, what's up next, mate?
So next up, we are actually heading to the Korean War. And we're actually looking at some new stuff from Warlord Games for Blood Red Skies. So they have 2 new squadrons available for you to pre-order over on their website right now, which are the Grumman F9F Panther Squadron and the Lockheed F80C Shooting Star Squadron. So both of these planes, and I didn't actually know much about these until I started reading some of the background on the Warlord Games website, are actually core parts of the US fighting force when it came to the Korean War. So, for example, the Panther was, I need to find out exactly where it says in the thing. Yes, so it was one of the first planes to claim a US naval aerial victory during the war, which is very cool. And it was also the only encounter of a single plane, so a single pilot, taking down 4 MiG-15s in a single 35-minute period. So if you're looking for a plane
of them.
Exactly, yeah. So if you're looking for a plane that is dedicated to killing MiGs, this is the one to look for. The pilot who did that was one Lieutenant Royce Williams. There you go. Shout out to him. Other pilots that have flown these were the astronaut Neil Armstrong and John Glenn, if you know them, which is pretty awesome. And also the baseball star Ted Williams, because America. But yeah. So yeah, pretty awesome stuff on that front. On the other side of things, you've also got the Lockheed F-80C Shooting Star. And the Shooting Star was actually a jet fighter that was developed towards the end of World War II, actually, in 1944. And a lot of people thought that it was never going to see much use until it was actually involved in the Korean War, and actually became a very good plane for dealing with not only sort of dogfights in the air against the MiGs and that kind of thing, but also fighting against ground troops as well. So a lot of people employed it as a sort of air-to-ground craft as well, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, 2 new options there for Blood Red Skies. Bolt Action is also getting some cool stuff for the Korean War as well, but we'll look at that maybe in a couple of weeks when they've included a few more releases for a lot of stuff. But they're doing things like Chinese and the British and that kind of thing as well. So a lot of focus on the Korean War right now from the guys at Warlord.
They've pushed into Blood Red Skies with Korea, because obviously then the next thing to do would be either Victory at Sea or what's their PT boat game? Cruel Seas.
Cruel Seas.
So they could presumably, I think they're probably going to be looking at segueing into one or both of those as well for Korean War, so they can have that campaign feel where you could play naval, air, or ground encounters in the same time period. So.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that's quite interesting.
But you mean for ground, like you mean the Bolt Action Korea's range for the ground stuff?
Yeah.
So you can have one guy on one table playing that, and another group playing the
someone doing the air combat,
or potentially you just link them together in a campaign. You play a Blood Red Skies game, and then depending on the outcome of that, then that may affect your Bolt Action Korea game, or trying to resupply via Cruel Seas, trying to drop equipment or naval, essentially like a beach assault type of thing, but the precursor to that, doing the ship to ship fighting. So it's interesting to see how they're trying to expand and cover the war from various theaters and
And one of the cool things about what they've done, obviously in that sense, is that while the Blood Red Skies rules originally were all focused around World War II, there is actually like a PDF. I think it's a PDF. It might also be physically available, which is actually just called MiG Alley, and it's all about focusing the fighting into Blood Red Skies and the Korean War and that kind of thing. So, yeah, you can go and check that out over on their web store, which is pretty awesome. So,
Cool. What's up next, Ben?
So next up, we've got some new stuff for Mythos. So this is a new faction that's been introduced in the game, which really sort of builds on everything that they've done so far. They've added in loads of stuff that was all available almost like as concept art back when Mythos first came out, which is pretty cool. So this new set are the Aldani Travelers. So if you like the idea of kind of like Travel mythology and folklore, this is the sort of the faction to go for. So it contains the miniatures of the Calderas family and also some of their sort of impish followers who help them with their goings on, which is very awesome.
I'm loving these guys here. They look like badass gremlins.
They do, yes. I really like those. They're very cool. And then you've got lots of different characters in there which draw on the aesthetic of like traveler culture and folklore, and sort of giving it a little bit more of a mythos twist, a little bit like how mythos twists Lovecraftian sort of myth and legend in its own way as well, which is really awesome.
That's two Kraken ranges in that sort of vein. Then we've looked at Twisted, and this mythos stuff's really cracking on.
Yeah, it's really, really awesome stuff. And again, it's all around the same scale, so you could almost use terrain for both of them, which is pretty cool. So yeah,
for your buck.
Yeah, so that's a new set of their sort of miniatures they've been doing for that. As I say, all sort of built around the themes of you've got a Lloyd shot in there as well. I always make sure there's a Lloyd shot. So it's tied into ideas and themes of Traveller Society and sort of twisting on the kind of what they've been doing there. So there's lots of mysticism, folklore, and one of the big focuses for them is sort of tied into the idea of the fates. So it's all about manipulating fate and the fates in the games, which is pretty awesome.
That's another faction. Sorry.
No, that's right.
I was going to say, like talking about Twisted earlier, where you've got the very poppy colors. That faction there is, you can go full carnival on them.
Yes, exactly.
You've got your ringmaster and your strongman and your knife thrower and the fortune teller, and you could really go over the top in the paint job, which would be really striking when you compare it to some of the other factions where you've got like the fish folk and who are very, very grounded and very grim, wet and green.
Yeah,
I'm throwing a load of stripes and poppy colors on the tabletop with that puppet master is particularly creepy.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the things I really like about Mythos as a whole is that they've effectively taken that Lovecraftian. You've got a nice butt shot there.
You're so pleased with yourself.
You've got that Lovecraftian theme, especially in those first two sets that they came out with. But then as they've developed the range and taken on board all of the background that was developed when the game first came out, they've tried to expand it so that it's got its own sort of mythos around it, which are, pardon the pun, which is very cool to see. And it means that the game is got lots of depth to it, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
There's so much available for it now for you to dive in and try it out. Which is awesome, so.
Sweet. I was just looking to see if there was any like artwork based on what you were saying, Jay. But that's fine. No problem there.
Yeah. So awesome stuff there for Mythos. But moving on back into history, we've got the guys at Wofun once again joining forces with Peter Dennis, who actually teased out some more stuff over on his Paperboys page on Facebook.
For his fantasy.
Well, we've seen the fantasy stuff, which is very cool. But this is for a new set called Armada, which is coming out soon. Yeah, so this is a new set of flat miniatures in the traditional style of Wofun and Peter Dennis, which is looking at creating a sea battling set. And the first one is obviously focused around the idea of like the Spanish and the English, finish your game of bowls, then go off to fight some armadas, which is very awesome. But they are also talking about doing some cool stuff set further forward in time into things like Trafalgar, which is pretty cool too. But as far as we can tell from this set, you're going to get the sort of two sides. So you've got the English and the Spanish, and they'll come on those really nice sort of plastic boards where you'll just pop them out and they'll be ready to go. Just slot them into the bases. And you're also going to be getting rules and all sorts in the set as well. So it's going to be an Armada set that will be able to play out.
No rigging to have to strap on.
And no rigging to do. Yeah.
Which one of them's the Mary Rose?
Yeah, I'd love to tell you that I know, but you've put me on the spot, and I'm going to say the one in the middle.
It's not in there. It's the one that's sunk.
It's the one that's sunk in the river, yeah. Actually, yeah.
Because I have seen the whole Mary Rose thing exhibition, and it's a bit It's a little underwhelming when you actually see the ship, because you wander around for ages and ages and ages looking at all this stuff, and then you finally get to see the ship, and it's basically just a big dark hole of a
that
thing.
Occasionally gets sprayed with water. Yeah.
On the plus side, though, you do actually get to see the ship. It's not like the Titanic exhibition in Belfast, where you spend 2 hours building up to seeing nothing in the end. Because it's not to see.
Oh, well. Yeah,
it's like
nice
you
to
should
see.
be inspired by the history of the events, Lloyd. You don't need to see it. Jesus.
What?
It's nice to see them branching out just from figures, though, into the ships.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, as I say, it's really cool to know that they're sort of delving into not just that kind of medieval period, but also, and that sort of Elizabethan thing, but also into later stages as well, which is really cool.
Is this going to expand out then, do you think, lads? Will this go into more like Danish ships and stuff eventually?
I think they're trying to keep it sort of contained to the one set, so you kind of buy it and that's the thing that you play.
One and done.
Yeah. But
so you don't think they're going to move on from like the Armada into like more generalized, like
trying to stop Peter Dennis
Imperial
from
battles
sketching
for sea?
is practically impossible. So
Very
I imagine
true.
you're going to see everything at some stage.
Yeah, I mean, as Jerry was alluding to, he is doing his fantasy collection at the moment. Actually, if you click on Peter's Paperboys in the side banner on the left-hand side there, Lloyd, if you scroll down to the categories,
All right, I see where you're going.
yeah, we can actually look at, hopefully the site will behave and we can look at the other stuff he's been doing.
Boom.
So yeah, if you click on that one with the three folks in it there. So one of the things that Peter Dennis is also working on in paper format, so not with WoFun, is producing these Russ characters that can be used
Russ Filth. Give them their full title.
Yeah, can be used in a historical context, but also in a fantasy context. So he didn't want to do traditional sort of Western European fantasy. He wanted to go down the route of doing something based on folklore and tales told by the Russians and that kind of thing in their neck of the woods. So he's been working on all the characters and things like that, as you can see here. But he's also been working on these. He calls them sort of mutated folk.
They look a bit like trolls.
Yeah, you've got that kind of like orcish, trollish thing going on, but there's also sort of like the idea of them being this mutated form of something, sort of dwelling in the background as well. So, yeah.
And do you print these out yourself? You get a PDF? Is that what it is?
Yeah. So you'll get a printable version of it sent to you. Print it off as many times as you like.
Hey, there we go. That's my Saga army sorted now. I don't have to try and flip and model these dudes.
Well, he's done Dark Age stuff in the past, so
I just
lots
print
more
these
Dark
off.
Age
Yeah, but he didn't do Rust before. Here we go.
That's true. Yeah.
I'm sorted. I can throw that plastic in the bin and just go with my paper now.
That's the way to the future.
There's so many people crying at the moment, but yeah. So he's kind of focusing on the idea of this being another sort of set. So obviously Armada is that little set game. He's going to try and do something in the same vein with this Rust stuff. So you'll have a little tiny starter set for it, and then maybe he'll do add-ons and rules for it in the future as well, which is cool. So, yeah.
Peter, if you're watching, drop in the comments below which one of those ships was the Mary Rose. Is it really not there because it sank? Is it? I think you should do a special
it only sank when they
one.
brought it in to refit it.
Yeah,
because it had been a warship for a while before they went, you know what, this needs more cannons, with as many cannons below the waterline as possible for reasons.
And then it creaked and fell apart in the river. Yeah.
Such a good plan, that, huh?
You know.
Fill it with guns. Nothing could go wrong. Right, Ben.
More guns is better, right? Yeah.
What are we moving on to now, mate?
So moving on from talking about folklore in sort of like Eastern Europe to looking into folklore and fantasy inspired by Scandinavian mythology. And this is some new stuff from Lucid Eye. So Lucid Eye did a sort of skirmish game not too long ago in the distant past called The Red Book of the Elf King, which I absolutely loved. Very awesome little book. Very cool ideas. Written by the one and only Rick Priestley. But they have now come back with a smaller scale version of it called Elf King Red.
What do you mean smaller? Smaller book?
So smaller scale, and the rules are only 20 pages. So there you go.
So what is this? Is this 15, or what do you mean by smaller scale? What was it originally?
So a smaller scale in terms of the number of models you need. Not in terms of, it's all 28 mil, or 28, 32, basically the same right now. But the new idea is that you, instead of having to have like, I know, and I love it. But yeah, instead of you needing sort of like 20, 30 models to play the game, you now only need the one Thane, who's your elven leader, and then 6 companions who you can see here as part of these 2 starter sets. So they've done 2 of them as starter sets right now with alternative takes on the original characters, which is a bonus for anyone who had the miniatures originally. And then the rules themselves are totally free. So you just download them, have a read through them, and you're ready to go. At the core of what they've been doing based on this is sort of focused around the idea of their Savage Core rules that they've been doing, but also bringing in some additional stuff from the actual Red Book of the Elf King rules as well.
Which you can find out more on the section here on Tabletop.
Yes, yeah. So you can go back through and find all that. And there's even a link in the article that we put out and showcased here, which should lead back to a preview that I did back when the game was first announced a couple of years ago. So that'll take you through the rules of the actual Red Book of the Elf King and what they talked about in there and that kind of thing.
This one here.
Yeah, so this is the full preview that I did back I think it's a couple of years ago now, actually. But yeah.
Time flies, doesn't it, Ben?
It really does, yeah. But for anyone who's interested in this, it's actually like a 1v1 experience, but it can be played as like a team-based thing as well, so you can throw a lot more players into the mix, which is cool.
It's not quite free then, you have to pay... What?
Well, it immediately discounts the 10p, and then you get it for free. So
that's just a technical limitation.
Just a technical limitation there, yeah. And the game is really quick and easy to play. It's all based off D10s. You roll a D10, add your stat and any of the modifiers, and if you beat the opponent, then you succeed in whatever you want to do. And you put little markers down to the model next to the models. So, for example, if you're hitting another elf, then you roll a D10 against them. If you succeed against them, you put a little hurt marker next to them. And then you roll after your turn is finished to see what actually happened to them. So they get to attack back as well. So it's kind of like a really cool sort of back and forth thing. But you could murder somebody outright, or you could, just wound them and that kind of thing as well.
'Tis but a scratch.
'Tis but a scratch, exactly, yeah. And as I say, them sort of they're drawing on a lot of kind of Scandinavian, Gallic, sort of European mythology around the Fae and that kind of thing as well. So it's all very much elf-centric, but in the proper way that elves should be done, where they're all cruel bastards, which is very cool. I
just pulled out one of the pictures from the preview article you did, just so we can see.
Yeah. So that's Vashel Goldenhand and his companions. And one of the cool things about the game, both in the sort of small scale version and the original game, is that the companions are always more or less the same, but they're influenced by whoever you take as the Thane. So if you take, say, for example, Vashel, he's very much focused on them being martial. So there's less glamours, so magic in the game, but it's more focused on the idea of martial might, which I think is really awesome. And they have done loads of stuff for the Red Book of the Elf King, expanding upon it over the years. So they've included things like the Troll Wars. So they've included sort of like really awesome Nordic-style trolls into the game. And they've also got mortals in there as well now.
Oh, that's really unfortunate. This guy's growing horns. He shouldn't do that. I'll not end well for him.
Nope.
But yeah, really awesome little set.
Yeah, I have seen people online who are actually growing horns. You see them on like the horns on their heads.
You mean nubbins? Or
no, it's body modification people.
No, these are people with they've maybe got a blocked pore or something, and the skin starts to get up, and eventually they grow a horn, and they have to go and have it cut out.
That's really weird.
By the pimple popper woman from the States, who's amazingly famous now for pimple popping.
You need to stop watching YouTube at 3
Did I go
a.m.
a dark hole of YouTube there?
You've gone down a really weird path, I think.
You can search for one thing, but you can never link off a link off a link off a link. Once you've had a certain amount of video recommendations, it will end you up there.
That's it.
Wikipedia.
The 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, where it will always come back to Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, no, especially not on YouTube, it won't.
That's it. Links interlinking in links.
Yeah.
Right. Next up, Ben.
So next up is some bits and pieces from the guys at Wargames Atlantic. So they've
busy people then.
They really are.
Oh, you have no idea.
Yeah. They've teamed up with Mark Mondragon, who was behind Dreamforge. If you get people remember,
is that his name? Mark Mondragon.
Yes,
that's what it says on the internet.
That's like cool, so, Mondragon.
Yeah,
it is. It's particularly good if you've ever read The Wheel of Time, because
I'm
Alan
stealing that name.
Mondragon was one of the main characters.
I
One of
haven't
the best
had any-
blade masters in the world.
I haven't had any kids, but if I'm going to have any kids, definitely one's going to be called Mondragon.
On Dragon Johnson. There
That's
you
it.
go, yeah. But they've teamed up, obviously, with Mark Mondragon, cool name, to re-release the Iron Core range. So if anyone remembers the Eisenkern from back in the day, this is going way, way back. They have sort of revamped and tweaked and sort of retooled the stormtroopers and released them as a new set of 20 miniatures. You get your standard troopers at the moment alongside some sort of special weapon users and also a captain figure. But this isn't going to be the end, because they are also working on some extra stuff as well in the future, including some kind of like Russian themed stuff, I believe, as their enemies. I think, Jerry, is it? Or
They've got two. So Mark, when he started doing these, had great plans for where he was going to develop the ranges into. So there's a Russian style and a British style.
Oh, awesome.
Have we seen any of those yet?
Just the concept. There's a render for Russian head, and there's the concept art that Mark had done years ago for the British. Have both reappeared on I think Facepage had them. So yes, all of the Germans are going to be re-released, or the Eisenkern. The Panzerjägers, they're coming back. The female troops are coming. They have been slightly, it's not just the original sculpts or the original tooling. So some of the weapons and the like have been made a bit chunkier because they were more realistic proportioned, which meant they were a bit finer, and for wargaming pieces they were a little less robust than a lot of other manufacturers, and they didn't look as right in the scale. So they've done a bit of work with Mark going, well, this is the concept, but we want to make it more user friendly. So still a load of pieces.
Do they tie in with what is it? They've got like a sci-fi dwarf looking sort of thing. Hold on, I'll bring the section of the side up.
Einhajar.
See these guys here.
Yeah.
Yes. So they'll fit in more with their death fields range. So the likes of the Space French, the Grognards and that sort of thing. But what they'll also work for is Conflict 47. So if people have a bolt action army
with this?
Yeah, they'll fit better with the Ram Jaeger and the Grognards, because the weapons are a bit chunkier. They're not as fine. If you've got a World War II Russian, British or German force, you'll be able to pick up a box of these and then use them as the heavy troopers for conflict, which is doable. The plan is to focus mainly on infantry, because Wargames Atlantic 2 at the moment focus mainly on infantry and the support weapons. Obviously, one of the big things that people knew about with Iron Core were the vehicles. They had some superb vehicles.
They really did, yeah.
Almost impossible to get on this side of the Atlantic.
These were the ones that looked a bit like the German vehicles with the what are the rockety pod things on the sides of half tracks and things like that.
Yeah, so there was a Stuka version. So they had a big half track, although it wasn't a half track, it was wheeled and fully enclosed. But then they had
like a half track, and the APC from Aliens had a love
combined. It was a stunner. So bad news right up front is it's not going to be appearing anytime soon. However, they have said once the infantry are out of the way, if the range is successful and people are interested, they'll look at trying to bring back the vehicle. Possibly he did the Gravstug, which had been on the box art for the massive Titan-esque. I'm trying to remember the name of them.
They called them
Leviathan Crusader. Yeah. I just had to look at the boxes because I've got 3 of them up there.
These are the big boys we painted red and made them part of the Mechanicus army in the studio.
They may appear in the future, but if they do, it will be down the line and it will be after the infantry have come. So we'll get the retooled version of the Eisenkern first, then into the Soviets, and then hopefully into the British. And I'm hoping it's going to be a success because I really like it. I've got a small force there, which I'm planning on using for something. I bought them. I bought them because I liked them. Like I buy everything. I had no point. There was no need for me to spend any of the money on those, and certainly not on those Leviathans. Glad I did.
You've got the guys that we've just been looking at, yeah?
Yeah.
But the older versions of that.
Because I think I got some of those kicking around as well. But I didn't build them because they'd gone out of production. I was like, I'm not going to build them now because there's nothing to add to them. But if they start bringing us back with the special weapon teams and stuff, they're like, ooh, hello.
Yeah, and it's one of these things where you'll be able to get your hands on them. If you've got a game you can use, smashing. I do know Hudson and the guys at Wargames Atlantic have talked about down the line releasing a game of their own, but what they don't want to do is release a game and only have 1 or 2 boxes, because then people aren't going to go anywhere with it. They want to have the miniatures released and then have the game to supplement them later on.
Because you'll build momentum with like, here's our rules and everything, and they'll be like, this is great, what do we play with? Well, nothing yet, and then it just deflates.
Yeah, exactly. So
I think it's a smart way to go, to have a range and then
get the range out there and see where they can go. Because
if you don't have the game, you can still sell the range.
Oh yeah, very much so.
Whereas
and people are picking up for 40k. The amount of people who are after them to use them as alternatives. I mean, you could use the Eisenkorn, the Iron Core stuff as alternative Space Marines very easily, or Imperial Guard, depending on your.
I saw someone talking about doing the Einhar. I'm going to say that's terribly said.
Einhar.
But the dwarves, basically the space dwarves, someone was using them as an alternative Space Wolf force.
Wolf, yeah.
So basically, just subbing out all the Space Wolves for the Space Dwarves.
Makes sense.
And using them. So, yeah.
I mean, it works perfect for it. It's interesting to see where they're going to go next.
Someone was talking about using them as like Death Troopers for Star Wars Legion. I'm not sure if they're tall enough. I think they're slightly short compared to even the Stormtroopers and stuff in Star Wars
The original
Legion.
Ones were.
A bit too short for a Stormtrooper.
Yeah.
With whatever way they've been retooled, you may find that they're actually more appropriate now.
And if you spray them all black, it'll work for Death Troopers, I think. So, yeah.
Could do.
Tempted to roll back and see now, but I'm not going to. not while we're on air. I'm not good people.
I think I've done this. I think I because I was looking for ways of making kit bashed Star Wars Legion guys,
right?
And I think I blue tacked the feet with the legs to a body and then to a head, and then held it up, and I think it was still slightly too short. To be a Stormtrooper.
Could well be, especially with the new Legion stuff, maybe.
Yeah.
But,
But sweet, looking forward to them coming back.
Yeah, they've been doing a really good job on this. It's all available to go and check out on the web store right now. And as I say, as we were saying, revamped and retooled and tweaked. So top of the range in plastic. So yeah, very cool.
If you want to know more about that, click the section on Tabletop. You'll find their logo floating around on the top banner.
Yep.
There's news every other week at least coming out of those guys. In fact,
probably
every week. Because only just this week you even did another unboxing of another set that they come out with the Persians.
The Persians.
Yeah. The only thing that slows them down is Peter Dennis's box art, and Peter Dennis is as prolific as they are at the moment, I think. So. Seeing who blinks first.
In that case, if Peter Dennis is drawing Russ and Wargames Atlantic like Peter Dennis, maybe we'll see Russ. Who knows? They tend to fill the gaps. So
I'd be like, ice cream. I want that shit. Right, next, Ben.
Yeah, so moving on to a new company, which is called Sellsword Miniatures, who are very, very recent. So we're only seeing like a few previews of what they're doing right now. But they are working currently on doing a set of 3D printable, so STL file-based German infantry. They're all going to be done in 28mm, and obviously you print them off at home. And they have slightly more exaggerated heroic proportions here and there, but they're kind of been made to fall in line with the likes of stuff that you might use in bolt action and stuff, which in some cases tends to have a few sort of heroic proportions here and there as well. But if you like things like sort of action comic style history, then this is the sort of range that they're trying to sort of aim for here. Their original sort of set of miniatures they're going to be releasing soon are going to be based on German infantry. So they're going to have a squad of 5, which will include an officer in the set, and they're all going to have a selection of different weapon options and that kind of thing too. And then moving on from that, they're also going to be working on, and we haven't seen pictures of it yet, but they're going to be doing things like mortar crews and machine gun crews, and also a Puma as well. So if you want to drop one of those into the mix to ferry your infantry forward, they're going to be doing that as well. As I say, they're very new at the moment. They only have their Facebook page up right now, but they assure me that they're going to be doing some more stuff in the coming weeks to kind of make their stuff available and showing off more previews and renders and that kind of thing as well.
It's quite a few hard lines, very chiseled sort of look, but I kind of like the chiseled look.
Yeah, because, I think it's a really cool sort of like, as I say, heroic World War II, which I think is really cool.
The interesting thing will be because it's an STL and you can print it at the size you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember Warren going looking for World War II STLs to print at 6mm scale and couldn't find any. You know, in a world of everybody's doing 3D printing, nobody was actually doing World War II 3D printing.
I think that's probably why Sellsword are doing this, I think.
Yeah. Having those really over-exaggerated details, I'm not sure how much of that will come out when you actually print it. Is it the case of like when they're sculpting plastics, they generally go for more exaggerated look because they know when it prints, there's a certain amount of shrinkage. And therefore, if you're printing it in 28 and then pulling it down to 15 or pulling it down to 6mm, those over-exaggerations will help. I don't know.
They could.
I don't know anything about 3D printing. Let's let other people do that. By lead.
The wise man who does is not here this week. But
I take it this hasn't been released yet then?
No, so it's not been released. This is just very, very early sort of work in progress stuff that they've been showing off of what they want to do. They have said that while they are focusing primarily on releasing all this stuff as STL files to begin with, they are looking that if the demand is there for it, they may start to do some printing in-house and then sell the physical products as well. So if 3D printing isn't for you, but you still like the look of what they're doing, maybe cross your fingers and hope for the future, because you never know what they might be doing. So,
if you're trying to break into that World War II 28mm stuff, though, that's a competitive sector there. There's already a lot of manufacturers in that. Yeah, so that slightly chiseled look, giving them a unique look, might play into their hand at that point. Yeah,
and obviously, starting off with the Germans, that means they're going to be moving into other factions as well. So you're hopefully going to be seeing stuff for the US and the British and that kind of thing as well in the future too. We've also got some new stuff coming out from Modifius for Elder Scrolls, or the Elder Scrolls Call to Arms as well. So anybody who's diving into that game and has been sort of trying it out for themselves, you'll know that they've been doing stuff for the Dovahkiin, which is the Dragonborn, and also some Draugr and the Imperials and the Stormcloaks. But they're also releasing these two new sets, which are called the Allies and Followers sets. So the first set, which you're seeing here, contains Lydia, who's the housecarl that you always get first off when you start playing the game and going down the main storyline. They're on the right-hand side.
Good old faithful Lydia. By our heads.
Oh, right. But she's over there with her shield raised and sword raised high as well. But
you could move us if you wanted, Lloyd.
Yeah, I'm afraid in case I move us and we don't come back. I've tried it. If we don't come back, hey, there we go.
There you go. You can just listen to the sultry voices instead. But yeah, you can include her in your warband and shout her off the top of High Hrothgar, as everybody does. But also included in that set, you've got Kajaro, a caravan guard, Orc, Barbarian, Khajiit Bandit, and the Breton Ranger as well. So there's some really awesome bits and pieces in there for those people who know the game and enjoy it. And then the second set is full of more named personalities from the game as well. So you've got Janessa, Mjol the Lion, Mercurio the Mage, Drekthessus, and Vorstag as well. So if you're a fan of the different companions and allies that you can hire in Skyrim in the digital world, you can now start to include them in your warbands and your games when playing either as this sort of like more narratively focused elements of Call to Arms, or maybe in a competitive sense as well. And also because Elder Scrolls Call to Arms is very much a story based around, individual characters and their stories that they're telling, there's no reason that you couldn't use these to be your character of choice. You don't need to be the classic Dovahkiin Dragonborn from the front of the box. You could do something different and instead play around with one of these characters as your main character and build around that if you wanted to as well, which is very cool.
Have they said what material they're going to be made in? Because I know a lot of the Elder Scrolls stuff has been hard plastic.
I'm not entirely sure exactly what those ones are. I would assume if they've been doing stuff in hard plastic up until this point, then these are also going to be hard plastic. But I wouldn't like to say. I know that the original one that they came out with as a sort of resin was a resin piece, and then I believe they were moving to hard plastic after that. But I would assume that they're going to be hard plastic here as well. But just Modifius have been doing quite a few little bits and pieces for this one going forward. They did some 3D printable stuff last week as well, where they had.
I think I have this here. Is it the Watchtower stuff?
Yeah, so that's the Watchtower. That is available as an STL file. So anybody who knows the first encounter in Skyrim with one of the dragons, beyond Helgen, obviously, this is the Watchtower that's set up outside Whiterun. So you can go and fight out your battles around that. Which is
this one looks shocked.
It does look shocked. That's because somebody's knocked its bridge down.
Yeah, that's because the dragon stuck its head inside it. Yeah. But yeah, some really cool bits they've been working on there. They've been doing 3D printable stuff for full out wasteland warfare for quite a while now, but this is also now available for you to print off for Elder Scrolls too. So lots of Bethesda properties getting covered at the moment by Modiphius, which is awesome.
Sweet, I'm gonna have to check that out.
Funky.
Get Justin printing some towers for Saga.
Oh, don't worry. Jerry's going to be making Justin print everything for Westphalia soon enough. So everyone will be tasking him with stuff in the future. So
that's what he's there for, isn't it?
Oh dear.
I've been misinformed.
Little STL Goblin. That's his name. Yeah. So.
Cool. Well, thanks very much, chaps. Take a quick break and we'll be back for the Kickstarters.
Does Warhammer 40k rock your world? Check out store.ontabletop.com today, where you can save up to 20% across a wide range of hobby games, tools, and paints, including Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, Star Wars, Flames of War, Bolt Action, and many other incredible ranges. We are based here in Northern Ireland and rated 5 out of 5 on Trustpilot.
Okay, chaps. It's been epic going through the news. Hopefully you've got epic Kickstarters to keep the momentum going. Well, what have you got for us? What have you got this week?
Well, it all falls on my shoulders once again. And we start off with some good stuff. I was about to swear then. Some good stuff from Rocket Pig Games. And this is their Kickstarter for a selection of 3D printable STL files for the Orc Tusklands. Not Tusk Glands. Tusklands. There you go. So even more horny. So yeah, totally funded. It's got about 20 days left on the campaign.
Could it be any more horny? Look how many horns they've actually stuck in.
Very, very horny, yeah. So the main sort of focus about what they're doing with this campaign is producing STL files for Orc miniatures, terrain, and also a rules pack that goes alongside Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition as well. At the core of what they've been trying to do here with the Tusklands campaign is develop not just the characters that inhabit the Tusklands world, but also... This
character's nicked that Lumineth mug.
Yes, yeah.
Screw
their sorrow.
Much more size appropriate, though.
So taking a lot of the stuff to do with their characters and sort of heroes and villains, that kind of thing, but then mixed it in alongside terrain elements. So you've also got things like big monsters, ships, siege engines, and a whole bunch of other stuff as well. The thing that you're seeing
sample PDF.
Exactly right there is the free sample PDF for the rules pack that they're doing. So they're actually developing a little kind of RPG introduction to the Tusklands, which means that you can actually play with the miniatures that you print off and all the terrain and all that kind of thing when you're building dungeons. So the focus is that you're not necessarily playing as your traditional heroes that you might expect, although obviously you could go and invade the Tusklands.
I got to scroll past this picture.
That's a tail. Just go past it.
But you can dive in and play as orcs and goblins and play around with all their sort of quirky mounts
horny
and
squigs.
monsters. Or horny squigs, as you might imagine.
Goodness sakes, you wouldn't want to sit on that.
Yeah. So that's obviously their free PDF, but obviously if you back the campaign, you can also get the actual version of it as well to add into your collection. And I like the idea that they're developing something that is very much focused around the idea of playing as what would be quote-unquote monsters within the world of Dungeons & Dragons and doing something a little bit different. But as you can see, a lot of their main focus of what they're doing here is developing up the terrain. So they're designing buildings and walls and defenses and that kind of thing.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah, so an orc amphitheater, because what do orcs do? They fight. It makes them bigger and stronger. So,
hashtag the Grand Arena.
Yeah.
It's very World of Warcraft vibe.
It very is, yes. You've also got your traditional sort of orc models as well. So they've all designed them to be printable off at home on a variety of different printers. I wouldn't like to say exactly which, but yes, they have them here, and there are some guides here and there as to what you should be doing. But
don't think I'll work on my inkjet printer, mind you.
It'll do it. It'll do it through the power of will now. But as well as orcs, they've got goblins in there as well. Everybody loves a good goblin. So if you want to do like a shanky goblin or a spelly goblin, you've got those options as well. And again, riding around on their big horny squigs at the same time too, which is very cool. But then they've sort of developed it even further than that and sort of explored some of the other things they've been doing. So monsters. So you've got a massive, what they've called obviously an orkoth there, but a lot of people will know it as a squigoth from sort of Warhammer Fantasy as well, which is very cool. So you like the idea of throwing, and also 40Ks had squiggles in that as well, didn't they? But yeah, so yeah, big massive monsters for you to include in your war games if you want to go down that route rather than RPGs. Although it would also be pretty cool to set an entire encounter on the back of a howdah, for a Tusk Titan or something.
What does an elephant need other than tusks? More tusks and horns.
Exactly. Is that a woolly mammoth? I can't remember. Or is that's just a tusky?
That's like an elephant meets rhino. That's what that is.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Look, the hide's very rhino-like.
It is actually, yeah. It's because it's not an elephant. It's a Tusk Titan.
Tusk Titan, of course.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's cool. Yeah, so you got giants and all sorts of things as well. I promise I looked at the Kickstarter, but yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Very cool.
Their monsters have always been a standout thing for me. I don't know if they do a Patreon. I was thinking suspicion I've seen one in the past, but they've certainly done a few Kickstarters, and
they have, yes.
And having looked through their range in the past, their monsters are absolutely stunning.
Yeah,
from the massive dragons to Shane Warren's not here. They did like a fungal giant, I think they called it, which would probably have him on the floor right now.
Those cannons are very close to the waterline.
They are.
They make sure they don't go Mary Rose with this.
Full Mary Rose on that one.
But just like true orcs, they keep everything working through the sheer will power that they have. So, yeah.
And glue made from goblins.
Exactly, yeah. Some of the other cool bits and pieces, as you can see here, they've done the siege equipment and obviously those dungeon scapes that they had above as well. So if you want to actually do proper dungeon delve with them, you can do that. There's their Patreon link too.
They do have one there. I have seen this then.
Yeah, but I believe they also actually have some of the stuff from their previous campaigns as well. So they've thrown in some bits and pieces in terms of sort of characters they've worked on in the past, monsters, that kind of thing too. So as well as getting the STL files for what you want for the Tusklands and building up your orc collection, which is very awesome. You can also dive in and check out those as well. I like the idea of painting up these orcs a little bit more like sort of Warcraft orcs, going back to what you were saying. So that kind of classic, obviously you've got green in the mix, but I like the idea of doing them with kind of like sandy orange fur skin as well.
Fleshy colour.
I have to say, that's the vibe I get when I was looking at them further up.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting that Warcrafty vibe.
Yeah, big chunky orcs. Yeah.
They've done some, stupendous stuff for Kings of War players out there. The orc drum kit there, because what do orcs need? They need more drums. Never bring a horde without at least one set of war drums behind it. Getting nice drummers is always difficult.
Yeah. But they're a fantastic little range that's also kind of around that sort of like 28, 32 mil range, sort of size range, which is pretty good.
Or bigger or smaller, depending how you're feeling.
Exactly, however you want to print them, basically.
How many feet is that Baba Yaga hut? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks about 5.
Five makes sense.
The answer is just enough feet.
Goodness me. Hopefully those feet don't each have a separate brain. Like it would never know where it's going to go.
Quite like the idea of that. Running about like a headless chicken.
Literally, yeah.
That would also be very good for Baba. Yeah, that's very Baba Yaga. Yeah, but yeah, they'd obviously be a very good fit for a lot of ranges that are out there at the moment. The thing that I was looking at when I saw these originally was that they'd be a really nice match for sort of expanding on stuff by like Atlantis, for example. So what Atlantis do on the Orc and Goblin front, these would be a really good match for that if you want to go in that direction. Or instead, maybe look at what they'd be doing here for the characters and then pick up the bulk of your force for like a skirmishing army or something from Atlantis and that kind of thing. But yeah, I really like their trees, actually. I think
I like the
really
trees
cool.
as well because they're very they're cartoony, but I like them.
It definitely fits with the aesthetic of what they're trying to do, which I think is good. So
here's something you don't see very often. Look at this. You don't often see actual sleeping baggy type things and stuff.
Yeah, like a proper encampment for the race that you're building them for. That's really cool.
That's for the humans. I guess they're going to break into it at night and eat them all. Yum, yum, yum.
Wow, yeah. Do an orc raid the opposite way around. Yeah.
That's it. An orc stole my baby.
Yeah.
Squighound stole my baby.
A squighound stole my baby.
Yeah, they've really gone, I was going to say over the top. I don't think you can go over the top considering how many human-esque buildings and features and terrain pieces companies do out there, and then being able to get them for the orcs is tricky, to say the least. I mean, you might find somebody doing a tower, but finding somebody who's also doing the cooking pots, the beds, and everything else is generally tricky.
And I think one of the things that's cool about this as well
There's the
is that
monster ranges.
if you're into the 3D printing side of things, you've kind of got that added assurance that they obviously still do stuff through Patreon and have done that in the past. So they clearly have people that back them and like their products. So when it comes to seeing something like a Kickstarter where maybe you'd potentially have a little bit more of a gamble, you've actually got that little bit of a sort of pedigree behind them, which I think is really good.
Rocket Pig have been knocking out of the park for a while now, and I haven't seen anybody complaining about anything they've done. So
it all comes down to exactly how you print them. So it's all down to you.
I'm liking the fact that they've
you mean Justin?
Yes.
They've gone to town on the buildings. I really like that.
Yeah.
Because usually, like, people go, "Oh, orcs, well, they just need a few huts and that's it." You never see anything more. Let's see what's in the vid. Let's see if there's close-ups of stuff, because sometimes some of the best stuff's embedded in the videos themselves. So here we go.
Modular huts.
Modular.
Do they get tusks that big?
Hey, here's the Colosseum thing.
The Grand Arena.
Oh, look at that. Oh, that's cool, because you can extend that to be more oblong like then.
Yeah, you could, yeah.
Put a
You
couple
could
extra
use as
stripes.
many different elements to make that work.
Many different elephants did die from the tusks.
You know what that'd be cool for? That'd be cool for stadium stands for a Blood Bowl pitch.
Yeah.
You just
That'd be
wrap
good.
that around the pitch.
Yep.
So print a couple of extra straights or something. I don't know how wide that would be, but you could probably get it to fit in
You
around.
probably need 3 on each side, and maybe
Yeah, that would probably work. Yeah. But yeah, some really cool stuff. And I like the fact that it's modular as well. So they've kind of got that storability element going on as well, which I think is really good. That's now a new word, storability.
Storability, yeah. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Trademark Ben. Use it, you'll see you.
It's on the internet forever now. So
Yep.
yeah. But yeah. Awesome stuff.
It's extensive, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez
Very
Louise,
cool.
if you printed all this, you'd be through a hell of a lot of plastic.
Mm-hmm.
That's all right.
Justin's paying for it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's fine. We're all fine here.
So let's see, what's that? Funded was
Yeah,
20,
they made their £750 goal.
Yeah, it'd be 20 days left when you're watching this. So, sweet. Well worth a
Yeah.
look.
I'm sure if they hammer it hard enough, there's still stuff to unlock.
Definitely. True. Yeah.
Right, moving on, chappies. What is our last Kickstarter of the week?
So our last Kickstarter moves away from the tabletop in a miniature sense and instead looks to board games. So I'm actually kind of a big fan of Sinister Fish Games and their Village game that they came out with on Kickstarter not too long ago. And I believe we actually did talk about it on a Weekender back in the annals of time. But this is their new game, which is called Streets. So Streets is a tile-laying game for 1 to 5 players, where you will be building up the streets of your city and trying to build the best buildings on your street in order to attract the right crowd of meeples. So this is not set during the time of COVID.
No.
The game is very simple and easy to play, and sort of the sort of focus of how a turn works is that on your turn, and we can actually go through it right now actually, you'll place a building into your city. You can either decide to extend your city by placing it, as you can see there in that first image, or you can decide to close off a city, as you can see in the second image, by placing the tile in a different orientation. And then once a street has been sealed off, you'll then attract meeples to your street based on the different colors of buildings, and you'll earn victory points based on where they visit. So the whole sort of focus of the tactics in the game is trying to build the best street that will attract your meeples in the right way in order to
Attracted
combo it for
hipsters.
points. Yes.
So it's Tourism Simulator.
It is tourism simulator. It's like building the boardwalk in a very fancy city, basically. Yeah. Yeah. So what you want to try to be doing in the game is effectively building a street where all the meeples of a certain color will stop off a lot of times throughout your street in order to score the most bonus points, which is the sort of main focus of it. As they say, I've basically, and as I just said there, I've basically taught you the rules in the basic form anyway for what you do, and then from there are a couple of sort of nuances here and there going forward from there.
So to win this game, then, like Jerry's could have hinted at, you just need like loads of hipster restaurants.
Yep, loads of hipster restaurants.
Where's 20 quid for a flipping bacon sandwich?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you need to open as many delis as possible that sell the smallest cups of coffee. That's the way forward. And also cereal bars, because they're a thing. But yeah, obviously one of the core elements there is that you're trying to build the street.
Wait a minute, who's buying cereal bars out of flipping hipster restaurants? You know, you can get those in a pack of like
not
5 or
even
6
cereal
capes.
bars.
You know that
bars that sell cereal. That's the only thing they sell. So
what?
You know. Yeah, they exist in London. There are
Shut
bars
up.
that just sell cereal. Yeah.
No way.
You go in and you buy like a bowl of muesli for £5.
Cereal lives in my cupboard.
Exactly.
As Stuart Lee once said, they would have that in that
Nah,
London.
hold on, man. I don't believe this for a second. Cereal bars, literally like a bowl of cornflakes.
Yeah, so you go in and you pour a bowl of whatever you want, and then you eat it in a bar, and that's the whole.
But how
focus
easy
of
is it? I'll go through it. I've just taken my box, I've poured out my box, and I've put my milk in, and I scoff it. Why would you have to pay for that?
Well, in the modern day, Lloyd, when everyone is zip-zapping around along the streets of London or San Francisco, you don't have time to make it in the morning.
No, just no. I'm taking this
Have
back.
to get up and get dressed out of your pajamas just to go to the cereal bar for your cereal.
Now, I say that the cereal bars exist, but this was 2 or 3 years ago. They may have all closed down by now, but yeah. But,
no, I imagine they've only expanded.
As well
it's a
as
fascinating little concept though for this game.
I really, really like it.
Because I imagine, is each person playing a specific color then?
So not necessarily, no. Yeah, so you're building your city and you're attracting meeples based on the color of the buildings. So there's obviously a supply of green or yellow or pink meeples, and so you want to try and focus in on what other people aren't doing so you can score the most points out of it. So it's all about a little bit sort of like a balancing act between obviously getting in on what is available to you from the market, as it were, but then also trying to make sure that you cut off other people's ability to gain points as well, which is pretty cool. So
yeah, if you see somebody sticking down student housing in an area where there's a load of microbreweries and stuff, that's obviously going to attract one type of maple in there. That's your opportunity then to block that off before they can get anything else down it and force that kind of clientele out of there. Nobody wants to be in the Holy Lands.
Yeah, the meeples are really cool.
They have character to them, not just literally little blocks.
Well, that's an interesting point. So you can either buy this game, Streets, as a standard set, which just comes with the coloured meeples with no printed sort of character onto them, or you can buy it as a deluxe version, which comes with the sort of versions
graphics,
you see there. Yeah. And you can either get them, a lot of the components either as cardboard or as wood, based on what you want to do with the game.
Oh, there you go. Peter's kicking himself now, thinking, Maples, that's what it should have been drawn.
Very true, yeah.
Don't worry. We can put his artwork onto Maples. Have tiny Russ Maples.
Yeah.
What would you open up to attract the Russ in your town?
There's a dude who looks like you, Ben.
I mean, it could be my twin. But
Alternative Ben.
Yeah.
Alternative Ben.
But as well as the actual core game for Streets, you can also pick up their previous games called Villages, which is slightly more of a... Yeah, so that's a more medieval theme to it. So it's kind of like the same kind of style of game, very easy and quick to pick up. But as well as Streets, the core game, you can also buy 2 expansions. So there's the Businesses expansion and the Consultants expansion. So the Businesses one adds in a few sort of additional sort of strategies into the game, just in terms of the businesses that you put out in front of you, and adds more tiles in. And then Consultants gives everybody a player power. So in the normal base version of the game, you kind of are all basically the same. But with Consultants, you actually have like an actual player power that you can activate once a game that will do something special.
I don't know.
And I believe they're actually included as part of the sort of package for this as well.
I mean, I like the concept. I'm not so sure I like the idea of an expansion. Let's get the Consultants expansion. I'm like, is this a game or am I at work?
I played a game called not too long ago called Dream Home, where you build your own dream home, and that had an expansion all about painting and decorating in it. So it was,
yeah, but
people love that kind of thing.
You're weird, Ben. You'll play anything.
It's all about the block wallpaper.
Yeah. I played a game about building an Alhambra last weekend, so that was good. Yeah.
Well, maybe Consultants is the way to go then.
And the weekend before that, I played a game all about bird spotting. So it's
well, you do have that Bill Oddie vibe about you.
Whoa,
the bird fancier.
That's
the bird fancier. The twitcher. Yeah.
Let's have a look. What's left on that? Is that funded in many days?
Yeah, so that's funded by Sinister Fish, and it's got 26 days left when you're watching this.
Let's see what's in the video.
So yeah, another little good campaign from them. And it kind of goes down the route of board games that I really, really like. Like, I'm a big fan of tile-laying games as a whole anyway. But the thing that I really enjoy about they are cool. The thing that I really enjoy about it is that it actually presents something interesting once you finish the game to look at. So like games like Carcassonne or Seven Wonders and that kind of game, once you've finished it, you can kind of see your empire laid out in front of you. And I love that like that because it, not only is it good for taking photos and sticking on Instagram, but it's also just a pleasing thing at the end of the day as well. I think it's really cool. But yeah, definitely one worth checking out if you like your quick and easy board games.
Especially if you're fed up with playing Philip Monopoly. That's like way better than Monopoly, that game.
Yes.
Monopoly only exists to teach people that capitalism is a horrible thing and that it doesn't matter what you do, it's always a nightmare. And at some point along the way, they forgot that and went, this is a game for people of all ages. No, it's not. It's miserable. It should be taught in schools and then never looked at again.
And I can tell you now, you would have no fallings outs at Christmas if you played Streets rather than Monopoly.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Cool. Right. Streets looking awesome. 26 days left to go from when you're watching this. Well funded. Looks like a sweet game. Right, chappies, that brings us to the end of the show. Remember, peeps, go and comment below. Get your comments in. Like and subscribe for your chance to win the Lumineth set that we're giving away. If you're into the Lumineth, come on over to store.ontabletop.com where we'll have all those new releases this weekend. Showing by merch. Gotta get that in there.
We actually do probably need to build some merch soon. That would probably be a good idea. But
we have some merch, we just don't let anybody buy it.
Yeah, you're not getting my merch. My merch is exclusive to me. So if you've enjoyed the show, come on over and join the XLBS on Sunday. So if you join the Cult of Games over at ontabletop.com, you can get to see our bright and wonderful faces coming at you with all sorts of hobby and silly stuff every Sunday on the XLBS show, and you can sign up for a 30-day free trial. So what the heck is you waiting for? Until next time, peeps, happy gaming.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.